Welcome to the Transformational Storyteller Podcast. The stories we tell ourselves and others shape the lives we lead. I'm your host, Dara Lee Lyons. Today, I'm so excited to have not one, but two guests, Passion Pete and Milez Miyamoto, and together they've formed a company called Free the World Productions. And I have to say, when I first met Pete, and I expected, and you'll see him, you'll get to know him, but I thought he was gonna be like this hard, edgy kind of rapper guy, and he is the biggest love. He's just this ball of love, and Milez is the same. And so being able to get to know them and get to know their passion for music and people and using music to help free the world, it's amazing. So I'm really excited to hear their story today and to just do a deep dive into who they are and what they're about. So yeah, stay tuned.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Thanks, Dara Lee, for having us. My name's Passion P. This is Milez Miyamoto.
What's going on?
Coming to you live from PA today, Chestnut Hill, and we just wanted to tell you guys our story and how we got on and started and worked together. Really interesting, cool, divine story, which led to later on us working on a collaborative album called Divine Inspiration.
Volume 1.
Volume 1, because we're going to be more than one. And we are actually wrapping that up now. We're waiting on a singer for the last song. But the funny story about that is, so my wife is actually a doula, and she helps with birth and stuff like that. And she went to high school out in Hatboro, Horsham. And ironically, she went to high school with
my wife.
His wife, Emily.
Yeah,
so she was getting ready to have their third child, their daughter. And while she was in labor, she decided to take on a doula, which happened to be my wife. So in the process of having their daughter, my wife got to know Milez and got to find out some information.
You know what it was? It was actually after Laura was born.
Was it? Okay.
She came over to the house, and because the doulas, they check even after birth. Mm-hmm. And I got my little makeshift studio set up in the corner, and she comes in and she sees it and she goes, "Oh, my husband makes music too. You guys should link up." And I was like, "Yeah, cool, bet." And from there, we met up, and so that was a trip. She had just saw the microphone and the computer, and I guess it looked like your microphone and computer.
Yeah.
She probably felt Emily's pain as far as just having studios set up randomly in the house.
Right.
Nah, that was the start of something crazy, and it was cool just how it all started from my daughter being born, and yeah, a lot of love there.
Yeah, I love hearing both sides, because from my side, it was I got a CD. He gave my wife one of his little CDs that he had printed out, a whole bunch of them, and it was called Event Horizon.
Event Horizon, yeah.
And I got that, and I listened to it. I was like, man, all right, I got to give this guy a call. And the first song it was sent over to him was an idea concept called Free the World. And he just really fell in love with the stuff that I was talking about.
We actually ended up doing that song. That's going to be on the album.
That's correct.
Be on the album.
Yeah, so look out for that coming soon. Thank you.
And then Free the World Productions kind of birthed from the fact that was the first song that
that's correct.
You played me or whatever.
Later on in doing the album, we were talking about different things and how to grow as a team as well as artists individually. So. One of the ideas that was inspired to me was starting our own production company, our own labels and stuff like that. Milez helped me inform me with a lot of information online and stuff like that. So we decided to make our own brand called Free the World Productions. So now that's a legit company. We're getting into film, videography, all that, engineering, mix and mastering. We both write our own music, and I'm a producer. So all the stuff that you hear is 100% organic from us. So it's a really special thing. Absolutely.
Divine Inspiration, baby. Yeah. Divine Inspiration, homie, Volume 1, where we put the hit back in.
Today, our show sponsor is Loving Healing Press, and they are all about telling stories of redemption and transformation and self-help. And Passion Pete and Milez Miyamoto have this brand of free the world, right? And I believe that freedom happens through stories. So if you want to read any of Loving Healing Press's amazing titles, go to www.lhpress.com, and they've generously extended a 15% discount to any of our viewers or listeners, and all you need to do to take advantage of that is enter the coupon code DARALYSE15 at checkout. That's DARALYSE 15 at checkout.
Man, what's happening? Paint pictures like I'm canvassing. Oh dear, it's not venison. You better take your medicine. When passion got adrenaline, you can hear him screaming, let me in. I never half step, cause I'm not a half stepper. My mic is in control when I'm spitting back pepper. Divine inspiration.
Pete and Miles, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to talk about your story and like how you know, your wives gave birth to your babies, but you gave birth to this, you know, Free the World Productions, which is just amazing.
Right.
So tell me about like, cause you were like fixed up, you know, right? Like, So they fixed you up. So what was it like when you first met each other actually in the same space at the same time?
That's a good question.
For me, it wasn't awkward at all. I think just I have this thing where if you make music or create anything, I know I'm going to get along with you in some way, like as another creator. So it's, you know, open-minded. I know I'm friendly with your wife, so it was just like, what do you got to play for me? You know, it's like, oh, I got this, you know, and I was like, oh, I like that, and it was like we already knew each other. You know.
I was just about to say, for me, that's a good question because I can't even remember the first time we met because we talked so much on the phone way before that.
Yeah.
Like we already basically had a whole outline. Like we would send songs back and forth over the phone and through email and stuff like that. So we already basically had a half an album before you even met in person.
Rec Philly. Rec
Philly, that's right. Yeah.
I had just contacted Tim from Rec Philly, and he was giving me my first walkthrough. I'd never been there before, and because we were in contact over the phone, I was like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to meet Peter in person and let him also get this experience because it seems like a really cool thing. And so we actually met 5 minutes before walking into Rec Philly for the first time.
Oh my
God. Like you said, we had talked on the phone and worked with music, but in person was that.
And for anyone who's not familiar, Rec Philly it's a co-working like space for creatives.
It's a creative hub.
That's it's a creative hub. Yeah, within the city of Philadelphia.
Shout out to Rec Philly, man.
Yeah, shout out to Rec Philly. So Will.
Yeah. So and it seems like you had met each other even through your music, that you got a sense of like who the other person was and what they're about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cheat code almost, because when you meet a person and you kind of feel them out and you might like their initial, but then there might be something about their personality that's like like a game changer, like you know, be it politics or religion or something. But because we met kind of through our music, it's like I know exactly the kind of person you are through your lyrics. I can hear that and like, all right, we're gonna get along. It's cool. You know, there's no, you know, I didn't know you was like that.
Right.
You know,
Funny thing about that, like when we first met at Rec Philly with Tim, we were all sitting in this little space near the studio, and the conversation that we had was actually about politics and religion.
Oh my God.
We totally did. We went there, and Tim was just looking at us like, what are these guys? And we just went in on all the different religions and our views, and a lot of what I feel that conjoins us or that makes us very much similar in comparison is that open-mindedness. You know what I mean? There's not one direction. You know, we're very much open to a lot of different views and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So to me, that makes it real special, like an authentic bond, is that, you know, we both relate to so many levels. Like he has 3 children, I have 3 children. We're both upcoming artists that have big aspirations, but with the time limited, full-time working, you know, I was like a full-time CDL driver before this, you know, and just super time consuming with careers and providing for families, but at the same time being open-minded and optimistic to like different ways of the world, empowering freedom music that just really goes back to like the essence and origin of the culture. You know what I mean?
Well, and the music itself, because I think in the rap world and the hip hop world, like there can be a lot of emphasis on like violence or destruction or whatever, but that's not, your themes are different.
With hip hop now, it's just so much out there that you almost have to create subgenres. And when you do that, now you don't look at hip hop with this stigma of violence and things like that, because it's not, you know, and it's never really been what it's always been about. It's just a lot of the prominent people that we know who make hip hop, those, you know, the most famous ones. And, you know, we kind of attach that, but whereas other genres, they don't suffer that. You know, rock, for instance, there's I couldn't even name all the subgenres with rock. So, you know, you don't hear as much, you know, like I remember a big tide in music was when Kanye and 50 Cent had their battle. Who was gonna sell more albums? It was Kanye's 3rd or 4th studio album. And 50's 3rd. And I remember, but it was like, why are they pitting them two against each other? It's gangster rap versus Kanye West, you know, soul samples. It didn't make sense to me, and ever since then it was like, oh, gangster rap's been dead, but it hasn't. It's just, they found their own lane, and you don't hear it unless you want to listen to gangster rap now. And so I don't know, I don't like the stigmas that's with hip hop. I think there's just so many different lanes, because any genre can have a violent or negative annotation to it. You know, I've heard some pretty crazy country songs, you know.
Which is crossing over now, you know. Look at Lil Nas X, you know, with the Old Town Road, and there's videos on YouTube going viral with other people recreating different country songs and stuff like that, you know. But I think what makes it also really special is like one of the songs that we have off this new album, Divine Inspirations, called Tribute, where we literally just pay homage to all the classic hip hop records we grew up on, like Tribe Called Quest, and just like really inspiring music that like really embraced the culture very young, which is kind of like the music we grew up on, which is another commonality that we share, you know. So I think that's what makes it also special and unique.
Well, I think gratitude in art is so important, whether it be music or painting or writing or whatever, because none of it is created in a vacuum. So you're always influenced by other forces, and then hopefully you're also influencing other people, and it's like a conversation, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So which, if you each had to choose, I'm sure you have a million influences, but if you had to say like, oh, you know, this is the artist that most inspired me or made me want to be an artist, but do you have one?
Nas, without a doubt, Nas.
Really?
And I don't try to emulate him or nothing, but as far as just all around inspiration, it's Nas.
Okay.
For me, it's Rakim. And the reason why I say Rakim is because, you know, he made music that was funky, but he didn't really curse. You know, he could literally destroy you in a rap battle without even cursing, and his wordplay and metaphors was so visual, and like a lot of people don't know this, but Rakim actually started off as a saxophone player.
Really?
And if you listen to his voice, he has such a baritone, like alto kind of voice, you know, like Guru, rest in peace. You know, they had these really classic hip hop voices that sounded like these emulated instruments of saxophone and trumpets that really stood out to people and painted really verbal pictures, like Notorious Biggie Smalls and Slick Rick, you know. And to me, that's the art of it in itself.
Without a Rakim, you don't have a Nas and a lot of these other guys.
Right.
For sure.
Well, I can see that. I mean, Pete, from what I know about you two, you speak in metaphors. Like, I mean, that's your language. So sometimes you'll say something, I'm like, that's beautiful. You know, like, that's beautiful.
I think a lot of rappers and in general speak almost where you let them go for a while, it almost sounds like that rhymed.
Right. Like you just wrote a poem right now.
I find that a lot. You know, a lot of people, you know, talk about like the history of rap. I would argue that Muhammad Ali might have been the first rapper. If you think, you know, speaking in rhyme and in metaphor,
right.
And, I mean, he was doing that before we were cutting up records and breaking and stuff. So, yeah, definitely the way we speak, and that's all part of it for sure.
Yeah.
Facts.
And like the way that, I mean, do you find that your music informs your life, or that your life informs your music, or both? Like, I mean,
both for sure.
Does it tend to start with one over the other, or?
For me personally, it's a vibe. So the way that the song comes together is different every time. Sometimes, you know, P might send me a beat, and immediately I'll know what I want to talk about when I hear this beat. Or he'll know that I'm going through something and send me a beat that sounds in that lane. Or sometimes, you know, I know I want to write something before I hear the music, and I'll contact P or another producer and say, hey, I need a beat that sounds like this. This is what I want to do on it. And so it's just a vibe, whatever vibe I have. Sometimes it'll be something as weird as like, you know, catching inspiration from a walk or a movie or something. And I want to write something about that. Me and you were just on the phone the other day, and I forget what it was, but you just random said something, and it was like, you know what, I want to write a song about that. When I get home, I'll write a song about that. It was like mid-conversation, and it was just, you know, and so there's so many different ways. That's why it's organic. It's, you know, there's no one way, I don't think, or one type of, you know, formula, at least not for me.
So true.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
is most of the work that you do, is it mostly collaborative? Do you like write individual songs and then like do your own thing? Like how does that work?
Yeah, well, we definitely started off as independent artists regardless. Like we
Yeah.
had our own different views and directions and albums and projects and ideas in mind. But ever since we met, honestly, I feel personally like a lot of even each other's independent albums, we've inspired or influenced each other in some way. Like I was working on this EP and I didn't even really know the direction I wanted to go with it. I had 3 songs originally, the Loyalty EP, and I sent him one song, which was Never, and in the song Never I say, that's loyalty, as an ad-lib, not even like a lyric. And he just called me up and he was like, Pete, I got an idea. He's like, you should put all these songs together and title the EP called Loyalty, which is what I did. You know?
Each song kind of was a different
version of loyalty.
You know, be it positive or negative. And like, even so, you know, we've been like working on our collab thing, but like he was just saying, I have my own EPs and albums I'm working on.
What does EP stand for?
So an EP is the new age mixtape. Really, if it's 7 to 6 songs or less, it's an EP. If it's more, it's an album.
Oh,
it's not actually a track number, it's
extended
the time.
production.
It's the actual, it's
That's the
time.
technical term.
I forget what the exact time is.
Extended
but
production,
roughly 6
yeah.
or 7 songs worth of music is
It's
under
considered
album.
an EP.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you would move up to an LP, essentially.
Wow.
And so that kind of took over the mixtape. We don't have mixtapes no more, per se. And so people are putting out these smaller projects. And before, like, I'll put mine out, you know, I'll send him a lot of the songs, maybe the whole thing. Like, yo, what do you think about this?
Right.
You know, and just because we been working together so closely, and he knows how I work and things. And so even if it's not a song that has nothing to do with him, he didn't produce it or anything, I'm gonna still send it to P. You know.
Even ideas too, like Miles had this vision for this one song to sample himself in a hook, you know, or a chorus rather, and he had like this different, like chopped up vocals of different artists in there, and he was like, yo, can you scratch this in for me? And all I did was literally just put cuts in it, stuff like that. A lot of the songs I'll clean up or whatever, like clean versions, and just we work together like that. It's really cool.
I feel like there's so much trust in your relationship, right? I mean, because like art, music, whatever, like however you're producing, it's so sacred, right? And so to be able to really trust
as the
this
artist,
person.
the artist is always going to be sensitive of his art, and so that there is all that trust, but that doesn't mean that there hasn't been times where, you know, it's like, yo, my man, you know what I mean? But that's part of it, and it's part of like the beauty of the process and going through it and knowing all of those changes or something that might happen with the project. And, you know, especially with a collaborative effort, you even if the overall goal and vision is the same, you're 2 different people. You know what I mean? And
There's been times we butt heads a lot.
For
I'll
sure.
tell him, look, man, I think you should go, nah, I'm not doing that. Or take me off the album, you know what I mean? Stuff like that and stuff too. But it's great that you mentioned trust, because like that's a big part of it as well. Because even outside of the music world, like our families know each other. You know, we do things together. Like I was over at his house the other day, like last week, you know, and we got the kids together and jumped on the trampoline.
His son drew a picture of
My son drew a picture of him, you know.
I changed his picture of me.
My son even be saying our rhymes a lot, you know. Sensei Samurai is another song we got.
Oh my God.
But even in the production world too, like a lot of you know, the new age streaming and all this stuff, like I'm uneducated to that. I grew up on CDs. I remember when I first talked to Miles about releasing this album, I was like, yeah, we got to get all these CDs. I even want vinyls. And he's like, P, nowadays it's USBs, bro.
I just did it. I was like,
you know,
I don't know how many people told me I don't even have a place to play the CD.
Right,
Like,
exactly. Even
what about your
Funkmaster
car?
Flex, he's like,
Yeah,
I
apparently some of the new
won't
cars
even
only got
take it.
CD
You know what I mean?
players.
I won't even take it. It's got to be like
Yeah.
CDs. Nowadays we got scan codes, and like we even printed out business cards with these QVR codes now, and like that's the new wave. And like a lot of that stuff I wasn't really game to or receptive to, so Miles helped me put me on a lot of stuff like that. And as you can see, like with the equipment and stuff, a lot of that I've been, you know, being the sponsor for, you know, and like helping him with a place to record and or, you know, just means of a better recording foundation and just like working together like that. So trust is real big because it carries over the music into what we'd like to call this production, you know what I mean, that we're started.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's Free the World Productions,
Yeah,
right?
CO for company, but
Yeah. I mean, well, and I was gonna ask, like, do you feel like you have individual visions and then a joint vision, or do you feel like you just have this joint
For sure.
Yeah.
I think just because both of us were so hungry before even meeting each other. I mean, really, what, a year and a half now, maybe?
Yeah.
And so it hasn't been that long, but we've kind of taken pieces from our own vision and implemented them to kind of create this joint thing. But I think we still want to be doing and just to benefit each other.
Right.
You know, us doing something together is going to benefit my personal vision and vice versa. You know, so whereas like he started his company and wanted me to be a part of it, you know,
Free the World's my baby.
Yeah, that was always his baby.
He's got his
I had a
own
company
dream and
that I was
idea
getting ready to
concept
start,
too.
which he would be a part of with mine. And it goes both ways. So I think it's just, it's funny because both companies are real similar in aspect.
Right.
But it's just, we're helping each other and anybody else that we collaborate, you know, it's not just us two that we collaborate with. And
Shout out to Boogie,
Yeah,
James,
Boogie James,
On
and,
Point
you know, all
Productions,
my Sky
like
Limit guys.
another
You know, so
production company.
It's, you know, we're out here, we all got, even if it's little differences to it, it's the same vision. We're all hungry and we're artists that just want to create and be in a space where we can do that freely. So why not help each other? And you know.
Well, I really like that question, right? Why not help each other? Because I don't think everyone always comes at art that way. I think sometimes
Art's
there's
competitive.
Yeah,
Art is competitive. It's my art against yours. No matter if it's music, painting, production. You know, this camera guy over that camera guy. It's always competitive, but that doesn't mean there's only one winner. And I think that's the blurred line is when we think of competition, you know, you were so quick to think, you know, winner or loser. And it's like, well, no, there's different, what are your goals? And you know, you can't compare your day 1 goals to day 500 person's goals, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, why can't we work together? And I think that's big. Every time we go to a show that we do a performance, you know, we'll get footage of all the performers. And you know, I might charge you for some of your footage or your photos and stuff, but that's so we can afford to get more accessories for the camera. And you know, it's a business, but I'm here to support you, just in hopes that you'll support me as well. You know.
You know, I think that's a good point, the support aspect, because one of the things I realized through Rec Philly is like Pennsylvania and Philadelphia don't really have a lot of resources for artists, you know what I mean? And I didn't realize that till I started working more intimately with these good people at Rec Philly, you know, and I think that's a really important thing. Like, for an example, shout out my homie K Davis, the director. He actually sold me my camera, you know what I mean? But before that, he shot my music video, you know what I mean? And now he just released a single called Nobody that's blowing up, and like, it's a major stream single. Like, it's getting plays in New York, not Philadelphia. And he's from Philadelphia. You know what I mean? So to see
most of my plays right now in Seattle.
To see something like that, you know what I mean, is really strange, you know, because it is the city of brotherly love. And the one thing I will say, being from New York, is like, I definitely see more of that aspect, like Miles said, being at shows. You know, I met so many different artists that really showed me love. I remember when I first bought my MPC, which is
I thought you was gonna say that wasn't brotherly love. I was
when I first got
where you was going.
my machine to produce, which is called an MPC. The producer that sold it to me, shout out to John Evo. He just produced a couple of tracks off of Chris Brown's new album, Indigo. Her, it's actually the #1 album right now in the U.S. Indigo is the #1 album. He produced the track Her, which is fire. Come Together featuring Her, which is fire, you know. But he took the time when he sold me that machine for like 3 to 6 hours. We just sat in the studio, he was showing me stuff, we were talking, and I really appreciate that. He's basically my mentor. Don't even know it, you know what I mean? But doing stuff like that, you know, it really made this connection, because like when I did the show, shout out to Trey Prada and MC Quick, like these guys had already worked with him. So as soon as they knew that I was friends with him or that he was my mentor, they didn't even question, you know, my authenticity behind beat making or, you know, vocals or anything like that. They just embraced us, you know, just like one of them, you know what I mean? So like that format of just brotherly love and support has been, you know, real beautiful.
And I have to say, so I've had a lot of guests on this podcast so far.
Yeah.
I have never had any guest give so much recognition to other people in their field and with their art. And I think that's beautiful that you two are sitting here like, yeah, shout out to this person, shout out to that person.
You know,
like,
you wouldn't be in any of the positions you're in. If you really said, no matter who you are, like every, you know, they like the butterfly effect and all that, every move you make, every person you talk to, like, you know, you're picking up on it. You know how you said, I laughed, but it was, you know, when he said he's like my mentor and he doesn't even know it.
Yeah.
If you're the kind of person that walks through life like that, like I'm gonna learn from everybody I speak to. You're all my mentors. Sorry if you're angry about that, you know, you don't got to be happy about that, but I'm going to learn from you and I'll shout you out for it because I acknowledge that I learned it from you or I got that connection from you or you know, what have you. That's so big. That's the mentality that I wish more artists had. And I think a lot of them, they have the capacity for that. But, you know, like I was saying earlier, we're like designed to think it's just a competition.
Right.
You know, my streams versus your streams. And it's, rather than looking at it like that, like, hey, let's do a song together and
our streams.
But our streams,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
Now it's our streams, your fans and my
Yeah.
fans, you know, and that's just, it's free world, you know.
Yeah.
Free your
Speaking
mind,
of
free world.
mentors, shout out to Joey Heyer. That's my real mentor right now. I'm actually in school for audio engineering down on Delaware Ave,
He
across
knows
street
you.
from Sugar.
He knows you.
Yeah, he's
He's my real mentor. He's teaching me everything about audio engineering. I don't want him to see this and get butthurt that I didn't, because he's my real mentor.
Joey's a good guy.
You know what I
Joey's a
mean?
really good guy.
But yeah, he's schooling me a lot of things. But see, that's the other beauty of it is like I started off as just an MC. You know what I mean? The first time I ever really like got a taste of like that.
I thought you started off making beats before
No,
rapping.
no, I actually
See,
did, man.
You
The
learned
first thing was when I was 19 years old. I performed at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, New York. You know what I mean? And that was the first time I really got a taste or a feel for, you know, doing music live and really that organic thing. It was through a Buddhism community called SGI, shout out to SGI, you know. But it was really a beautiful opportunity, and it led me to believe that that's what I wanted to do. Like my father was a reggae artist, and he had a band called The Terrorists. And right before he died, he released their EP, or their album,
Yes.
mixed by Lee Scratch Perry, who's an amazing reggae artist, you know what I mean? So like marijuana at 45s have been around me since birth, so I always had a musical feel, you know, and then when I was getting into the teens, you know, that's when I started like with different rap groups and stuff, but really when I was 19 and I did that performance was the first time it really hit me, because when I was in Florida, I did a whole lot of underground stuff and open mics in Fort Lauderdale, and shout out to Town TV Productions, my man Jason was my manager at the time, you know, and it just continued to transpire, and then, you know, getting older in life and having more aspirations and really focusing on a vision, right? I started to realize, wow, it's more than just this. So it became like production, it became, you know, video, it became art. You know, Miles put me on a lot of art and editing, you know, and it became film, and then it became, you know, audio engineering, mixing and mastering, and songwriting. Like I write for singers sometimes too, you know, so it's just, it's an amazing thing that continues to build.
Right, and I love that. I mean, when you're open to allowing your art to evolve, like it never gets stagnant.
Right.
Because people will ask me that sometimes about my creative process. They're like, "Don't you ever get tired of what you do?" I'm like, "No, because it's always changing."
Exactly.
Exactly. It's so
Yeah.
it's such an open thing. It's the moment I think it's gonna get stagnant, I'm switching it up. I'm doing something different, and that's what's so fun about being an artist, though. You know, and I think that's why as artists we're all so sensitive about our art, and you know, it's so important, and it's so something that just makes you so happy, and it's like, don't mess with my art, man.
Well, you know, you began by talking about being parents, right? And like
Yes.
connecting. And I kind of feel like when you talk about your art, you're talking about like that's how people talk about their kids, right? It's like they're evolving and growing, and I'm always learning and changing,
There's
and
a
don't
lot
mess
of
with
correlations.
them.
I think there's a big correlation between I probably never
Especially in
thought
our
of it like
parenting
that,
views too.
Yeah.
Which is
for
ironic
sure.
because we have a song together called Parenting, where it's one of my personal favorite songs because I say everything I want to.
Our wives were too.
Our wives did not like it at all. But it's basically everything that every parent thinks. Every parent, if you're a real parent, you think and feel these ways. You don't necessarily act on it, but basically.
But don't get the wrong. It's a lot of love in the song, and
It's an
back and
idea.
forth.
It doesn't mean we're actually want to
back
kill
and
our
forth,
kids, but
you know,
it's just how you feel, and it's basically validating what parents feel and how they feel through a song without actually meaning it. And it's a really cool concept.
And the cool thing is even even if you're not a parent, I found listening to it,
Yeah.
I feel like it's just as relatable for a person without children because they were kids.
Right.
Yes.
And you know what it's like to make your parents feel like that.
Right.
So there's both ways you can look at that song. Because
Very true.
As the speakers were the parents.
Yeah.
You know, so it's almost like listening to your parent.
My kids love listening to it. They say the chorus all the time. Daddy, I want this. Daddy, I want that. You know, they love saying that part. Love saying it.
Well, and I think like so much of life, right, is like acknowledge the truths that nobody speaks about, right? Because like I don't have kids, but I so appreciate when I speak to my friends who have kids and they're like, Dara, I love my kids. It is hard sometimes.
Oh.
You know, it is
You
amazing.
want to borrow one?
Yeah, be careful. You got 6 right here. I'd never
I
get
love your
anything
kids.
done.
When do you want to take
We
them?
could have brought them.
Yeah, exactly. Pick one. We got 3 to choose from. You know?
Yes. But it's like, I mean, I feel like there's such authenticity in acknowledging, like, life is about the and, right? Like, these kids are amazing, and there are moments when I feel like I'm at my wit's end. You know, your partnership is amazing, your collaboration is amazing, and there are moments when you don't get along, you know, and I think it's important to own all of that.
It is a cool correlation, the parenting to art, making art, you know, like how we were saying, to support each other. And, you know, the parents that are angry that the other kid in the class is real smart. Like, no, I want the whole class to succeed, and it makes, they all look good. They're all going to help each other. And the same with the music and the art, you know, let's all succeed together. And it's a cool correlation. I haven't put too much thought into it, but it's definitely, at least I think both of us definitely treat our art like they were our own children. And, you know.
Well, I have a question, but now I feel like I can't ask it. So I'll tell you what the question was going to be. So, you know, I was going to ask if each of you had a favorite song, but then if the correlation is between kids, I'm like, well, I don't know.
No.
Like, that's like asking someone if they
A
have
favorite
kid.
personal song
Yeah,
or a
but
favorite
like a favorite
song,
song
period?
that
So,
you've done,
I
That
think-
we've done?
I
created,
think, like,
either
with
together or...
for me at least with music, I go through phases. Where this is my favorite song. This is, and each song that's been a favorite now gets put on like a all-time
I was gonna
great
say,
list.
yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like with your kids, you're not just gonna fly out and say, yo, this is my favorite kid. But there are times of the days was like, yeah, you're my man's right now, you know,
Yes.
or you know, my boys being knuckleheads, come here, baby girl,
Yeah.
you know, and so yeah, I'm not saying one's my favorite, but yeah, there you go through the phases where it's because with music especially, a lot of it is based off of the mood. You know, certain songs, no matter how good it is, you can't listen to it depending on
What you listening
what
to
you're
at
doing.
that time.
Yeah, where your environment or your mood and things like that. So one of my favorite songs that I've done, it's almost 10 years old now. And when I was getting out the Navy, it was a low point in my life, and I wrote this song called Hey You, and it was just so much emotion in it, and it was just so raw and true to who I was in that it was like a time capsule of me that day. And to this day, like that song speaks to me. You know,
That would be my favorite song.
but
that
it's
you
not
did.
my favorite no more.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, but it was, and it was a long point in time where it was. But I've moved on from that point in my life, and you know, I don't feel those feelings no more. So I can't look at that song as a favorite anymore. You know, I don't have those feelings anymore. You know?
But as far as like favorites between us, like the question you asked, you know, like between the work that we've done together, do we have a favorite song? It's funny because like the first song we talked about doing when we first met over the phone, you know, was Free the World, you know.
Yes.
But we actually didn't. We actually did the song called Sensei Samurai, which was a really cool spin off of like Wu-Tang Clan kind of style, plus like, you know, Miles Miyamoto, that name comes from like an samurais, you know, inspired kind of theme. So that was actually the first song, and I remember when we did it together, I was like, wow, this is great, and I kept listening to it. This is my favorite
Actually,
song.
it was funny. We did the song. We each had a verse, and he did the chorus. And we loved it so much that he extended the beat, and we both wrote another half verse and added a third verse on it. Because it wasn't always 3 verses, because it was a pretty long song. And it's like, like, we gotta write another, one, you know. Because when we originally, I only sent you the one verse back, and we did a couple songs before the Free the World. Actually, I think No Hook came in there.
Battle Scars was the
And
second
we did
one.
a lot of songs real quick.
And
he
a
just
lot
kept
of
sending
the-
them to me, and I would just send them back.
A lot of
and
these
fill
songs
them.
too is really emotional. Like when I was at work, actually, it just hit me like an idea inspired. It was Loved Ones, which was based off of a friend of mine who's incarcerated for like 15 to life right now. You know what I mean? And that song was based off his mother had just gotten cancer and she was on bed rest. So I made the song Loved Ones, and then the song said, "What's up, brother? How you doing? How's your mother?" You know what I mean? And it was based directly towards him, but it just told such a story, you know, that it was really emotional. And when you feel another artist's like vibe or feeling and emotion in the song, it's very easy to get with it. Like the song Battle Scars. I remember when I first sent it to Miles, one of the things I say in the beginning is true story. Yeah. You know what I mean? And he was like, I was just gonna write a verse, but after you said that, it inspired me to write a true story. Yeah. In a battle scar format of a memory of someone that's just left that scar in you, you know what I mean? So to me, that's what makes it really unique, like you said, owning it, you know what I mean? And like this album to me is like one of the most authentic albums because a lot of it is true factual, I mean, all of it is really true factual events based off of stories and like everything. You could research it, look it up, it's legit, you know what I mean? And it's embracing what we've been through, parents that we are now, like every little bit of mix in there is joined together. And the way we met to me was really divine, so it just became divine inspiration. You know,
yeah. Well, and I saw the two of you perform, and what I love about it is in that performance, each of you.
Shout to Derek.
Well, that was just his performance. I was there for the feature.
Well, no,
oh, you were there. You got on stage. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you freestyled.
Funny story. So P, the weeks leading up to this show and the night before,
some collaborative collaboration.
You know, I was just there as the cameraman that day. It was P's show, but I knew he wanted to do one song that I'm featured on. So I was like, I'll just hop on stage for that one song. The night before, he's like, yo, I want to do this other song that you're also on also. Yeah. I don't really know that verse like that. Like it's a pretty new song. We make so much music. You know, it's hard to memorize. And it's not a song I typically would have thought to perform. It's not like an up tempo, and it was real deep, but it kind of fit with his set that he had. And so I never really tried to memorize that verse like that. So he was like, you could be all right. I was like, yeah, I'll be good. I'm gonna listen to it a whole bunch of times tonight, bro.
You also didn't practice.
Don't worry. Yeah. I didn't listen to it a whole bunch of times. I tried to, but it was like, it's a deep song, like I said, and I wasn't in a bad mood or nothing. So listening to this song 50 times the night before, I was just like, I can't do it.
And also Miles' defense, he was kind of running around getting filmed and doing a lot of stuff like that. Like I was upstairs rehearsing.
So that first song I did, we bodied that first one, the Some Boy. We killed that one. But when we did the Soul Love, halfway through the verse, I went blank. But I just kept freestyling. You don't know that I went blank.
No, I didn't. I was like, he's so good.
You know, he delivered it well.
The original song, it's nothing like what I did. It was nothing like that. But that was a trip. But that happens a lot. I do have a tendency of forgetting my lines up there.
Shout out to Voltage Lounge, the first show we did.
It's because of the amount of music I make, not because of lack of practice.
Well, the funny thing is, so I do acting and I do comedy improv, and everybody always asks me what I like better. And I love acting. I love it. I love it. I love it. But there's a lot of homework because you got to memorize the lines. So I always choose improv over acting all day long because you just make it up.
I've always had it because I've always been interested in the field and something I would love to get into. So it's kind of perfect opportunity. Like with the differences between acting and improv, I would look at it as like acting is more of like an art form, whereas improv is more of your personality. Like you can't, like I feel like you can get the best actor in the world and they might not be able to learn how to be a good improv artist, you know, whereas I feel like you can take your acting courses, you can learn how to be good at your homework and come in and know your lines and practice. But improv, you can't just throw anybody up there with an improv. And
the funny thing, there's a Meryl Streep quote, and I'm probably gonna butcher it, so I won't try to be exact, but it's something about how, you know, acting is really about finding the authenticity within yourself. And I feel like it's true for both acting and improv, right? Like that, and it's probably true for your music, right? Whether it's music that you're freestyling or music that you've memorized, it's like it comes from within you, because if it doesn't, your listeners are gonna know that. They're gonna know that it's not authentic.
Yeah. That's a great point. Real. You know, when you say that, all I can think of is Jim Carrey. You know what I mean? Shout out to Jim Carrey. When he played the role of Andy Kaufman for The Man on the Moon, right? A lot of his story says he lost who he was. You know, because the story of Andy Kaufman was he became such an actor, he didn't even know who he was anymore. He was just sarcastic all the time, and people started not liking him because he was just like, you know, a different person every day. And like, he didn't really realize that he was doing it to himself because he lost himself in that field. And Jim Carrey shares about when he was in that role, he realized, this is me too, you know what I mean? And like
Yes,
to hear his authentic self come out of that, and like where Jim stands from now, and his views are so beautiful. I love, there's an interview, he's on the carpet, and they're like, how you doing, Jim? And he's like, who's Jim? I'm just here, you know? And I just love that essence of being, you know? And his story is really monumental too. He talks about like writing himself his first check for like $100 million on a hilltop in Beverly Hills, poor, broke, in his broke down car he was sleeping in, you know, and just like manifesting his reality, you know, putting it into action, which is, you know, why I decided to do this Free the World Productions thing, is because to me, it's like, we're not a big production company, you know what I mean? But the more I put it out there, the more I take these investments and put it into the world, the more it's gonna come back. I think like Bill W. called it the spiritual boomerang.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And,
Bill W. is the founder of
Alcoholics
AA.
Anonymous.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's amazing. Well, and I
Bill
like
Wilson.
I like to ask, you know, all of my guests, and because this podcast is called the Transformational Storyteller Podcast, right? And we're talking about authenticity. We're talking about being deeply rooted in your art. Like, you know, I believe that every story has a moral, has a lesson, has a theme. And so like if each of you, I'm gonna ask you as individuals, like if each of you could like look at your life and say, you know what, this is the theme I want people to take from it. This is the moral. What would that be for you?
Tenacity. Music is always, or art in general, is something that I love doing. You know, as a kid, it's hard for a parent to say, you know, don't follow your dreams or anything like that. Yeah. So parents are always going to do their best to be supportive, but also be like, hey, not everybody's going to be a rapper or a basketball player. And I think at a young age I understood that, but it never deterred me from to do what just meant that I had to do the normal 9 to 5 and continue to do what I love if I want to. Yeah. And you know, a lot of times you think of with rap, at least, a new artist isn't typically 30 years old. Right. That doesn't bother me. I don't care. I just want to be in a space where I can do my music and provide from doing something that I love. And so until that point comes, I'm just going to keep doing it on the side. But it's not a hobby. It's not a side project. No, this is my passion. This is what I love to do. But I got responsibilities. I understand that. And it's tenacity. You're not going to see me quit. You're not going to see me give up. Through all these years, I mean, I started recording really at a young age. I've probably been recording for like 15 years. And some people might look like, well, you've been recording for 15 years and I don't know who you are. Don't bother me one bit.
No,
because for 15 years, I've been doing what I love to do.
Yes. Well, and Angela Duckworth wrote the book Grit, right? About and before her, I think it was Malcolm Gladwell, right? And he talked about the theory of 10,000 hours. Like you do something for 10,000 hours, and that's when you get mastery. And you do not get 10,000 hours without some tenacity.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not cut and dry. It's not, you can't just lock yourself in a hole for 10,000 hours. You have other things you need to be doing.
Yes.
So you gotta have that tenacity, that grind, that hustle, that grit. You know, like you said. So I think that would be my core overall aspect of at least my approach to my artistry and
I love that. And what about you?
I was actually meditating. Well, obviously passion is going to be in there just because of who I am, but also dedication, you know what I mean? Because you talk about transformation and stuff like that, and like just my story and what I've been through, like to be here right now is a blessing, you know what I mean? The choices I made did not perpetuate health and wellness, you know what I mean? So if life were fair, I should be in the ground, you know what I mean? But because life ain't fair, thank God, because I have God's grace, I'm here right now, you know what I mean? So the dedication.
Because God ain't fair, I'm here. Wow.
Because of the dedication of you know, continuing, like one of the things in SGI Buddhism they have as a logo is never give up, kind of like John Cena. And I don't know if you've seen the interview he's done with kids and like the stories of like people with cancer. The wrestler, yeah. No, I'm saying he goes with that Logan. It's SGI's logo as well, but the never give up thing, you know, to me that shows a good form of dedication. Like, cause as an artist and a parent, you know, there's been times I wanted to quit. A lot of times I'm like, this ain't gonna work, you know, like I'm 30 years old and this ain't a real production, you know.
You're not gonna see us on the freshman double XL.
But it's really, you know, this is the good old days, like Macklemore talks about. You look back on them, you know what I mean? But that dedication and perseverance or passion, you know, has always prevailed. You know, people recognize it when you have it, you know what I mean? Like, and to me, it's just a beautiful thing to have, to look back on, because I've noticed and learned to compare myself to myself when I want to measure the growth, you know, and to me, that's a transformation in itself.
That's tough to do. That's real tough to do.
Well, and both of you, I mean, I think really what you're both talking about too is like a deep, profound commitment. Like when you commit to something and you go all in and you're dedicated and you're tenacious, like the results speak for themselves, and the process is pretty amazing. Not necessarily every moment, but like overall it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I think at least that's supposed to be the fun part. Like when you watch the interviews of all of our influences and you know the people that we look up to in this field, they always say that you know the grind, the come up, that was the best part. So I'm just trying to do my best to enjoy that part. You know,
we're all in that part, right? I'm like, we're all coming up.
And that's the thing. Normally, you don't know that was the funnest part until the end. But if you pay attention to your history, the people before you, they told you. So enjoy it. Like, you know, and so it doesn't bother me that I'm out here grinding. This is what I want to do. This is what I
definitely don't always feel that way. You know what I mean? But see, that's the other beauty of it is like we inspire each other. I remember when I first started working with Miles, like a lot of the stuff I was insecure about, you know, like sensitive about my music, and he was like, bro, that verse is dope, or that beat's insane, you know, and just like inspired me to keep going. And I remember telling him, he was working on like 8 projects at one time, like, bro, focus.
Spreading yourself too thin.
You spread yourself too thin, you know what I mean? Let's focus here. And like we kind of like got each other's backs like that, and that to me is another form of like, you know, that what was the word you just used?
Commitment.
Commitment, right.
Yeah. Well, and so I want people to be able to hear your music. I want them to get linked up. You know, you do a lot in the collaboration space. So tell, like, where can people get in touch with you, Passion P, like individually, Miles Miyamoto, and then where can they get in touch with?
So the beautiful thing about the new age era is there's so many different forms of social media and contact information. So what we've done, which I've learned through Miles, is create link trees.
Oh yeah,
which have pretty much everything on them, you know, and we have
that
business
through
cards
your
that have
Instagram?
them, but through my Instagram, you could definitely access my link tree. It's in my bio.
Or just right online. If you go to your internet browser, linktree.com/whatever the URL is.
Okay, so so each of you give a URL.
Well, I'll give my Instagram because I think that's because I don't really remember my URL, but it's at passion_P_FTW.
Okay,
and then
at
it's in
Passion P FTW.
And it's in my bio right there. It's my link tree, and it has my BeatStar account. You can listen to my instrumentals. It has Spotify account for all the songs we've done together. It has the website. We have websites. I also have a Instagram and Facebook page for the business, Free the World, at Free the World Productions CO.
Okay,
you know,
awesome.
on Instagram as well.
So I'll put that in the show notes so that people can either like scroll through and you know on the audio version and select that, or if they're watching on the video, they'll see it on the screen, and then they can also
That'd be dope.
you know, go into the show notes. And what about you, Miles?
Instagram and Twitter and link, pretty much all of them. It's Miles Miyamoto.
Right.
Spell Miyamoto.
MILEZ for Miles, MIYAMOTO for Miyamoto.
Awesome.
And you know, like P said, the music is on all digital platforms: Spotify, Tidal, Apple, Google, etc. You just type in Miles or Passion P.
Right,
but with P, you gotta be all difficult, and it's a capital P @ symbol. $, lowercase I, zero, uppercase N,
lowercase N.
Lowercase N, space, capital P.
Yeah, wait, say it again. So that, if anybody's listening, they're probably like, what?
So
on Instagram, it's just normal, Passion P, FTW.
Yeah.
You could, that's the best way to find. That's why I said that.
So we'll go with the normal Instagram one.
So the story behind that is there's actually a lot of different passions out there, just like there's a lot of different Miles. And to keep that name, Passion P, the only way I could keep that was to switch up the letters. So instead of an A, it's an @ symbol. Instead of the S's, it's money symbols. Instead of an O, it's a 0. You know, so I had to do it that way.
That was the hard part, was the 0. When I was looking for them on Spotify and stuff the first time, I kept putting a normal O. I had all the other little symbols right. I'm like, I know this is right. Where is he? And it was a 0. I'm like, how am I supposed to know it's a 0 and not a big O?
Right. So the best way is just click that link tree and then find the Spotify.
But he's the only.
But if you find Miles, you'll find Passion P.
We
Just like if you find Passion P, you'll find Miles, because we have playlists together and all types of stuff.
Oh my God, but I love that. I love that, like, even in the name, you got an independent, like an individuality about you, right? And thank you.
Did you give yourself your name?
What's
that?
that?
Curious. Did you give yourself your name?
Passion P?
Yeah. I'm always curious that with rappers, if they got the name themselves.
Here, want to talk about some more divine stuff real quick, as he actually has his rap name tattooed on his leg, and so do I. And that's how I gave myself my name. Well, I did mine. I had a little bit of time, you know what I mean? But yeah, I did mine myself, but that's when I came up with the name, you know what I mean? So I did give myself my name.
Oh, I love that. So you're both like literally.
And there's money symbols in it too.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on
Thank you.
today.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
feel like we could have talked for another couple
Absolutely.
days.
No
'cause
problem
you're
at all. Yeah, we
both
could go.
so deep, and really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity for having us into the venue. Really, most grateful.
Like, why should I stand in line to be a slave to the system that's been rigged before the moment I was made? It's like the whole design was made for me to fail.
What I love about the story of today's guests is that, they have been through things and they have gotten up stronger than ever. And so one of our show sponsors today is Just Strong. Their logo, the Just Strong logo, is the squat. And what they say about that and about life is that the real strength comes from getting back up after life gets you down. And so Just Strong is a clothing and lifestyle brand for women. And if you are a woman or you know a woman who has and harnesses the power of strength, who's gotten back up after getting down, check out Just Strong's clothing line at www.juststrong.com and enter the coupon code DARALEAF10 for 10% off at checkout. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Transformational Storyteller Podcast. As always, thanks to our episode sponsors, our production team at Rebel Hill Consulting, and of course, many thanks to you, the listener. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're creating stories that empower you and inspire others.
Or just living life on a different plane like, my name is Passion and I'm dangerous. Do you want to be famous cause my sickness is contagious? Everything I spit, I have a purpose, it has vengeance. Nowadays, rappers put words inside a sentence.
Pass it with the no look. Yeah. All these tracks that need no hook. Filled with rhymes for my notebook. They want the beat, but they don't cook. They not with the hook. They popping no clips. I'm heavy as verses. You only had lips. They kids wearing them bibs. All on the nipple. I'm popping like Pitbull. Get off of my Jimmy. Ain't talking no Kimmel. Me and my dog, we out of the kennel. We know that the pot is black as the kettle. That's why that I'm high. Hot as the metal that shot right through that poor fellow. I've killed some beats, but not quite like this. All of these rappers, I know that they piss. How do I know? I've been making a list. Listen to this. I'm taking a piss and taking a hit. All of you, we on the news. That's killing my genre. How about you beat the first rapping Obama? Right. Feeling myself, maybe it's true, but none of you making a move. Catch me around your team means you should expect a cool. They know that I'm crazy, I'm bad shit, but none of you phase me, I'm past it. My verse, they hit you like acid, and none of your punches come at shit. The hole that we digging is massive. I got on the list in the masses. Last is, I hope that the rabbit don't come out when you enter your casket.
This beat right here needs no hook. Shut the fuck up, I wanna sleep. Why is it every socks story?